All right, Shalom. Happy Shabbat, happy Sabbath. Today we're learning, and I got a book in early this morning called The First Age of Man in the Seven Secret Cities by DR.M.DOREAL. And shout out to Neophyte Dag. The brother's channel is amazing. He puts out such great information. We're going to go into other people's channels as well, some information that Big Judah has brought out and linking it with this book. There's talks. We're going to be linking it with Inner Earth, Hollow Earth, secret cities, hidden cities, a whole bunch of stuff, and some things that I found before getting into this book. But the first book I read by DR.M.DOREAL, you need to go do some information on him, look him up, see what he's about like I did. The first book I got by him was called Messiah Agadoth, which Neophyte Dag referenced a lot in his videos. And I was like, there's a lot of great information in this. Let me get it. Because a lot of these people that I watch, a lot of these teachers out here, there's no point in just knowing this information, especially when the information is available to you by purchase. And these books are not expensive at all. There's so many of them. So over this whole last year, getting onto a sidetrack, I've ordered so many books, and I'm not just ordered them to say I had them, or ordered them and just look for the one spot where I found that one piece of information that I wanted. I'm reading the whole things. I'm reading the whole thing. So this book specifically, The First Age of Man in the Seven Secret Cities, has so much crazy information about the seven secret cities. A lot of the lore and legends about places like Mount Shasta, which is going to be huge when I get to it. Shambala, the Sahara Desert, this secret city under the Sahara Desert, or that was the Sahara Desert. There's so much information. So we're going to jump right into the secret city part. This book goes into the first part, introducing the evolution of man. And when I mean evolution, I don't mean like from slime to rocks, like the basic one that you learn in school. I'm talking about the divine consciousness. I'm talking about the astral sun. And it all involves the evolution of man going back to his spiritual self, going back to his true self. And these cities hold knowledge, and each and every one of us is drawn at a certain point when we rise and vibrate high enough, depending on the color of our aura, it says in this book, to what city we are attracted to and what city we are called to. So that is going to come a little later. That's just the beginning of the book going into depth. But we're going to go to the part that talks about the seven secret cities and where they're located and the legends and the lores around them. So we're going to start with Shambala. The first one established by the White Lodge, or the masters that came down here, or that are sent down here to teach us more information, to bring us back to the Most High, is Shambala, was the one we know of as Shambala. This retreat is hidden some 75 miles beneath Lhasa in Tibet. Lhasa, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, in Tibet. Although at the time it was established, it was not hidden below the earth, but was on the earth's surface, because as yet the Himalayan mountains had not been raised. So we go back, I'm going to go back into here, and it talks about the form, how earth has changed, and how a lot of the things that we see today, that we know of today, were not there, that certain mountain ranges were not popped up yet. And if you study this, you know that earth is continuously changing. I read from a book called about, I'm not sure the whole title, but it was going into the Lumerians. And a huge part of the book was talking about how the earth is continuously changing from different centuries, from different periods, over hundreds of years, thousands of years. Different islands have popped up, different islands have sank. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to read this part from it. Our material historians for a long time said that there was only one that said that this was the only great civilization, is talking about the one that's controlled now. They base it on canistic achievements, but we know Egyptian, Babylonian, and others attained to certain civilizations in the past, and before them, the historians point to the so-called prehistoric man and say that on the evidence gained, man lived 20,000 years ago, and that the Cro-Magnon man had a larger brain capacity than man of our modern times. They did not have our knowledge of mechanics, or of our weapons, or warfare, or of the chase, meaning the types of crafts that we build to engage in warfare, or the types of crafts that we build. Yet there is no question that they descend from a very highly evolved race of people. For great civilizations in the past have risen and fallen, just as continents and great land masses have risen and fallen beneath the ocean in the past. For instance, Mexico City, with its 7,000 feet altitude, was beneath the waters a number of times, as is shown by the excavations in the different layers of gravel and seashells found. At one time, all the land from the foothills of the Rocky Mountains to the south and some distance to the east was underwater. The ocean covered what we know as the Great Plains. This has happened many times in the past. The great civilizations have risen and fallen. Man has risen, but man has not fallen. The great waves of consciousness rose to the great heights and passed on, and their places were taken by souls of lower consciousness, who cannot carry the high degree of wisdom and power. They misused it and therefore fell into savagery. In doing so, they lost knowledge the knowledge the ancients had. Or we might say it was removed from their race by a series of cataclysms. The Atlanteans attained a very high state of civilization and reached a point where the great souls who had incarnated in Atlantean bodies passed to another world, and their places were taken by souls of lesser degree of consciousness, who did not have the capacity or wisdom to handle the great forces and powers the Atlanteans had. So one of the guardians of the world brought about the sinking of Atlantis, so that the mighty weapons and the great powers they had wielded would not be accessible to man, who would destroy themselves. Past history has shown that unless man has reached a high state of evolution, he is not capable of using these forces, the universe constructively, and using the forces of the universe constructively instead of destructively. Now, that's a little glimpse in the beginning of the book, talking about how the Earth was different. As we read, Mexico City was underwater, and that the Great Plains of the Americas were underwater as well, and the ocean covered them. So we read about Lhasa in Tibet, Shambala, and it was saying that the Himalayas mountains had not been risen yet. Also, at the time, the Andes Mountains had not thrust up their towering peaks. So the first and primary one, which was Shambala, which became secret later, was established at that spot. And the earthly White Lodge took up their home in that retreat. There, the great ones created the Hall of Lights, in which all the souls of this earth were attuned or attached to the center of power. In that, the power reflected the degree of light or darkness each soul on this earth manifested. Your vibration, your color vibration, which Neophyte Dag goes into a lot, especially in these last videos that he's made, raising your vibration and your frequency, which brings out a certain color. And these colors, as we know, are represented on the chakra chart. We might deceive the material world as our true degree of attainment, but we cannot deceive that center of force or power which is attuned to every soul on the earth. So let's go back to the secret city part. And the first one was called Shambhala and Lhasa in Tibet. Now I'm going to go to some information I have about this city. Why the British will invade sacred capital of Tibet. Hidden City has long been has long been a sealed book to the world. A country ruled by a child strange marriage, customs, great statue of Buddha. Interesting. One of these sacred cities is connected to Buddha, and Buddha is connected to the city. Let's keep on reading. The most interesting feature of the invasion of Tibet by the British punitive expedition under the command of Colonel Younghusband, which is now on its way to call the Grand Lama to account, is the fact that the hidden city of Lhasa, the capital of the country, is the objective point of the British. So the British are trying to invade. We now know that they're trying to get to this underground city, which we can read a little later, that certain people are not allowed, that you will not find these cities if you are not chosen. They are shielded by energy forces. They are shielded by spiritual technology, by spiritual powers that do not let the profane or the uninitiated or the vain or profane people acquire these things. It says you can look, and you will never find it. It's a way to call the Grand Lama to account is the fact that the hidden city of Lhasa, the capital of the country, is the objective point of the British, and the outcome may be the opening of a place of mysteries which has long baffled the ingenuity of explorers ambitious to enter it. The cause of the British invasion of Tibet is the failure of the Lama to observe trade treaties and his refusal to receive a British mission previously sent to treat with them. So this is their reasoning as to why they're invading Tibet. They're invading specifically, as we read, the point of objective of the British was to invade the hidden city of Lhasa. And we're going to see what is the result of this. Tibet, in the heart of Asia and guarded by stupendous mountains, is one mysterious, semi-savage land from which the white man has been successfully excluded, and it seems as if all the strangest customs on earth have taken refuge there. For some reason, the Tibetans have always guarded the sacred city jealously from the profane eyes of the white stranger, even travelers like the French priest, Father Huck, and many others. So this is an article I found, I think, about 2 months ago, and now I'm reading this book about the first sacred city, Shambala. This retreat is hidden some 75 miles beneath Lhasa in Tibet, and we see that the British are trying to invade this. Very interesting. Let's go to the second city. Another secret city was established in the Harz Mountains in what is now Germany, although the Harz Mountains did not exist. Another secret city was established in the far north in the barren grounds of Canada. It is one of the primary secret cities. At the time it was established, it was not in the North Pole region of ice and snow, because at that time the polar region was tropical, fertile country in which life existed in abundance. All right, let's get a link to that. Let's go read some things about that and see if we can connect this secret city in Canada, hidden city in the north. So as we read, there's one of these secret cities is located in the barren wastelands of Canada near the North Pole region. But the North Pole region was not always a land of snow and ice and inhabitable for humans. It was fertile and life existed in abundance, as this book says. Now, this is the article titled The Hidden City in the North. The story of the hidden city revealed to the world by a mirage seen over the Muir Glacier in Alaska has once more been started, says the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Several alleged observers have seen this alleged mirage. Several alleged observers have seen this alleged mirage, the most favored of them being an alleged John M. White of Philadelphia, who on June 21st, some years ago, was able to study it for 9 hours from 11:30 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. through the powerful glass. Mr. White is quite certain that he didn't dream this mirage because he has seen photographs of it taken by other people. The photographs do not look in the least like the mirage Dr. White saw. Mr. White's theory is that there is a flourishing open metropolis situated somewhere near the North Pole on the shores of the open polar sea, and that when the sun is at the highest northern point, as it is on June 21st, the mirage of the Arctic capital is reflected to the point where it appears over the Muir Glacier. So this man observed what seemed almost like a mirage of a giant city in the North Pole. And as we read here, another secret city was established in the far north in the barren grounds of Canada is one of the primary secret cities. At the point it was established, it was not in the polar region of ice and snow, because at that time the polar region was tropical, fertile country in which life existed in abundance. And now let's get to the third one. Another secret city was established in what is now Yucatan, but was then raised much higher above the waters than it is today. Another was established in the northwest of the United States, where Mount Shasta is found at present. Another was established in the region of what is now the Sahara Desert in the Atlas Mountains of Africa. The Sahara Desert was once the center of a great civilization in the ancient world. Even today, travelers in the desert may often see entire walled towns come into view after a sandstorm to be covered again by the shifting sands. The same is true of the Gobi Desert, where the seventh city is found. The one in the Gobi was mentioned in Eastern literature because it is known to India and Egypt, and they called it the White Island. Those who have been there say the word island is not a misnomer, because when they first built it, it was on an island. But again, the waters covered that land, and this one island was above the waters. The waters receded, and it became a great fertile region. For ages, mankind lived there and developed and flourished. It was in this region known as the White Island that the seventh secret city was built. The wise men of the East made pilgrimage to the White Mountain so that they might see the great ones who inhabited it and be instructed in the wisdom that would enable them to draw closer to the divine. It was said that the Apollonius of Tyana, who was a great teacher and soul of ancient times, made a journey to the White Island. References to it say that it was he was instructed at the hill of Brahman, or the sacred hill of the Brahmins, that the sacred hill was no more than the White Island, one of the secret cities. These 7 secret cities were established so that upon every landmass of that day there would be a center or focal point of power and wisdom, because the plan of the great ones was not for one cycle alone, but for all 7 cycle of ages of man. Very interesting. Thus, for age upon age, the 7 cities serve their purpose and still exist today, just as they existed from the beginning of man's incarnations. Now, it talks about how these secret cities, we're going to go into this, I'm just going to cover this, and we're going to jump back into Mount Shasta, because I got a lot of information on that one. And the city located in the Sahara Desert in Africa, we know from the movie Aquaman, where did they go to? An Atlantean city. Where was it located? Under the Sahara Desert. The great ones had certain means by which they instructed mankind, but they made it impossible for those who were not worthy to enter into the initiations. That is the reason, even in the mystery schools and the rites of initiation, there were always 7 steps of initiation. In the Mithric mysteries, the initiate passed through 7 stages or 7 caves before he stood at the high altar to receive the final initiation. Symbolically, he had to prove himself worthy to enter into the 7 secret cities. The same is true of the Mayan mysteries, about which little or nothing is known today. We know why. What happened to all the information on the Mayans? Where did it all go? We are told that the fearsome forms and shapes that the initiate encountered and the test, trials, and tribulation he passed through. The reason in ancient times was that the initiate needed great strength of mind and consciousness, so that if he were seized by a king or emperor and tortured, he would not reveal the mysteries, the secrets that the mass of mankind were not ready to receive. Therefore, they had to be strong mentally, physically, and spiritually, so that he could endure torture and not reveal the secrets the masters were not ready to give the world. Now, we're going to go back to this side over here, and we're going to talk about Mount Shasta. One of the secret cities on the North American continent. Mount Shasta is in Northern California. It's right near the border of Northern California, near the coast. One of the secret cities of the North American continent is in the heart of Mount Shasta. It is not on the mountain. It is in the mountain or under the mountain. A person can walk around it 12 times and see nothing. There is a certain force set up that misdirects people and causes them to pass around it in another time space, so that they cannot go to that particular point unless they are masters of time spaces. Yet there is a great opening that leads into the heart of the mountain, and those who are worthy may enter. Very interesting. So let's get some information on Mount Shasta. If you go to Google and you look up Mount Shasta Secret City, you're going to find so many links talking about legends, about urban legends, about stories from natives, about stories from Indians, and many different types of quote-unquote cults or religions formed around the legend of the secret city in or under Mount Shasta. But let's read what Wikipedia, this is the one time Wikipedia seemed to have some decent information about it, because according to them it's a legend, so they're going to put the information there assuming that you won't believe it or that you'll just take it and jester. Mount Shasta has been a focus for non-Native American legends centered on the hidden city called Telos of advanced beings from the lost continent of Lemuria. The legend grew from an offhand mention of Lemuria in 1880s and in 1899. Frederick Spencer Olivia published A Dweller on Two Planets, which I looked up links to a Inner Earth, Hollow Earth, and this link was this book, A Dweller on Two Planets, was mentioned with it as well. So I got this bookmarked, I got this favorited, so I can purchase it when I feel the time is right, which claimed that survivors of the sunken continent called Lemuria were living in or on Mount Shasta. Oliver's Lemurians lived in a complex of tunnels beneath the mountain and occasionally were seen walking the surface, dressed in white robes. In 1931, Harvard Spencer Lewis, using the pseudonym Wishar S. Pinelli Serve, wrote a book published AMORC about the hidden Lemurians of Mount Shasta, and the bibliography of Mount Shasta described as responsible for the legend's widespread popularity. This belief has been incorporated into numerous occult religions, including I Am Activity, the Summit Lighthouse, Church Universal and Triumphant, Love Has Won, and Chiron. Now, I was like, Love Has Won? What is that about? I clicked on the theology of Love Has Won, and this is what it talks about, quote unquote, Love Has Won, a occultic religion surrounding the legend of the secret city in Mount Shasta. The theology of Love Has Won has been described as fluid, combining New Age spirituality, conspiracy theories, and the elements of mainstream Abrahamic religions. The group proclaimed that Carson was a divine 19-billion-year-old being who had birthed all creation. Carlson claimed she had been reincarnated 534 times, including as Jesus, Joan of Arc, Marilyn Monroe, and Cleopatra, and would lead 144,000 people into a mystical fifth dimension. Wow. The group claimed that Carlson was the queen of the lost continent of Lemuria, and the group incorporated the belief that Lemurians live within Mount Shasta in California. So let's get some more information on Mount Shasta and the Native American legends about Mount Shasta. According to local indigenous tribes, namely the Klamath people, Mount Shasta is inhabited by the spirit chief Skell, who descended from heaven to the mountain's summit. Skell fought with the spirit of the below world, who resided at Mount Mazama, by throwing hot rocks and lava, probably representing the volcanic eruptions at both mountains. If we look at a map of Mount Shasta, I'm going to go over to Google Maps here. We get to Mount Shasta, and we see that's in Northern California, right near the Oregon border. Right across from it, right up near the border, near the coast, there's a place called Klamath National Forest. And Klamath is exactly on the coast, on the Raqua River. And you see Klamath there. You see Klamath National Forest, and then you see Mount Shasta, which is all in relative to each other. Now, another interesting thing about Mount Shasta is you go up on the map and you get to Portland, Oregon. Right? It's right above it. You go to Mount Shasta and you just go straight up. There's a highway and it leads you right to Portland, Oregon. Now, another interesting link I found was on an article I've had about Inner Earth, about Hollow Earth and different entrances to Hollow Earth. And now we're going to read from an excerpt from 1978, the journal Ogdensburg, New York, 1971. This is the end of it. You should go onto the National Archive pages. This is from the New York Historic Newspapers archives. And I searched up Hidden Earth, Hollow Earth in there to see as many articles as I can about these things. So this is from the New York one, but you should go look it up on any archive page you can. Just type in Hollow Earth and just read as many articles as you can about it. So this is from the end of an article I read. And yet, the Hollow Earth theory did not die with him. This is talking about a man called Sims. I think his name is Jonathan Sims. Yeah, Jonathan Sims. And it's talking about how the hollow earth theory. And let me just read the ending of this article because it links and it says that there's an opening to a hollow earth or inner earth near Portland, Oregon. Is it talking about Mount Shasta? And yet the hollow earth theory did not die with him. People as desperate as Adolf Hitler and today's ufologists have since argued the postulation. In 1967, an obscure magazine published a report of an underground city near Portland, Oregon, which was inhabited by 1 million subterranean people. There is even Hollow Earth Society now. It claims the membership of several hundred believers from around, if not from inside the world. Sims was right, members say. He was ridiculed and scored, but so was Galileo. And for that matter, Newton, Simsonia, they titled it. If you believe in Hollow Earth or Inner Earth, they titled it Simsonia. They insist it is still down there waiting to be found. But I'm just linking Mount Shasta and this article about Hollow Earth, saying that an article or report in 1967 of an obscure magazine published saying an underground city near Portland, Oregon, which was inhabited by subterranean people. Is Mount Shasta what they're talking about? Who knows? We'll see. Now, also, with linking these 7 cities, let me read a couple more excerpts from this. So we got one in the Sahara Desert. How many movies have been made about a secret inner city or a secret hidden city or a civilization underneath the Sahara Desert? We know from the movie Aquaman. We got the Gobi Desert. We got Mount Shasta in America, in the border of California. We have the Yucatan. Now, here's another interesting article. The secret city in the not an article, but another part of this book that I'm reading. The secret city in Yucatan is in a valley, but if you were in an airplane, you cannot see that valley. You would see a mass of rocks because it is covered with a certain force that is implemented with the image of rocks. So no airplane would try to land, and it is possible to reach it by any means we have. All of these 7 secret cities play a very great and important part in this present age in which we live. They are the points of leverage, and they were established from the beginning, and each one so aligned with each other as to form a certain definite pattern. And when the time comes, when the last great battle between light and darkness will be fought, and the material conflict terminated by the inability of man to fight any longer, then it is formed from the 7 cities that the great power, the great central spiritual force will be concentrated and directed in the pattern of the 7 against the forces of darkness to break it down, dissipate it, and transmute it into light. That is the reason that certain ones go to certain of those certain cities and others to another, because they are called or drawn to the particular secret city, which is infused with their own particular soul color or soul vibration, originating from one of the 7 spiritual planets. Now it goes on to talking about what's going to happen at the end and how it's going, where these 7 cities exist now, and they will exist until what it says is Christ returns. So this is just great information. Order this book. It's called The First Age of Man and the 7 Secret Cities. It goes into a lot deeper stuff that I don't think I'm ready to quite go into yet, or I fully understand myself, so therefore I'm not going to talk about it. But just as a side note, I looked up 7 secret cities, and I looked up the term Kabbalah after it to try to link it to see if the Kabbalah or there's any Jewish or Hebrew legends surrounding these 7 secret cities and many other ones. I looked into 7 cities of gold. There's lots of links on that. But I was thinking about the 7 cities or the 7 churches in the book of Revelation. And they tell us that these are all located in Asia. But are these talking about the 7 secret cities, which will be used which will be spots for learning, for initiates of light, for the beings of light, for the cadamants to go and be initiated into and learn wisdom, to learn knowledge, that those who are ready, those who have the proper vibration, those who have the proper frequency, and are attuned to the right frequency to go and learn from. Because as I read before, you're not going to see these cities if you're not able to, if you're not, and to a certain point, if they don't want you, you're not going to see these cities. In this book, it also talks about the Harz Mountain in Germany, where one of these secret cities is located. Like I said, that during World War II, thousands of planes flew over them, and not one person ever saw them. But it seems during these speaking of these lores, that certain people, maybe Adolf Hitler, knew of these cities. Maybe Adolf Hitler was trying to enter into these cities. As I read from the article before, talking about how the British were trying to invade the city of Lhasa in Tibet, they talked about the lore of secret mysteries and of how it's heavily guarded by the people of Tibet, and how for the longest time, a lot of the secrets of the cities, the white man has been excluded from. So if you have any other information on secret cities, drop it in the comments. Let me know about it. I have another article talking about how airplanes and submarines are not new, how the Atlanteans established them first, and it goes into the Atlantean technology, and how these crafts are attuned to the thoughts, the thought of man, or the thought who's ever running them, or whoever's controlling them. And they're way more powerful, and they're way more complex than the crafts that we have today. Definitely check it out. I'm going to link Brother Neophyte Dag's channel to it. Check out Big Judah's page, where about a month ago, he was going deep into inner earth and hollow earth and the Lumerians and the Atlanteans and the lost cities underground. So this is just me kind of picking up pieces and digging in holes that they already dug, seeing if they dropped or left any gold in there, and searching out things that I'm interested in. So all praises to the Most High. I got videos coming up about rock and roll, about the origin of rock and roll, some articles literally stating that the Negro created rock and roll. I got articles linked to, shout out Big Judah, the book, The Stolen Legacy by George G. M. James came in. And I have an article that talks about how the Greeks stole pretty much everything from the Egyptians. I have some other articles talking about the creation of the telephone, how that Egyptian magicians were the first ones doing this, and that there were reports of them using technology or using magic that would carry voices from long distances. So you would hear a voice of somebody, but you wouldn't see them, and they would be far away. And that same article goes into the Greeks, goes into the Iberians, and talks about how they're all of African or Negroid origins, and how till this day, scholars and certain institutes are literally printing lies, and they're talking about why these lies are being pushed. So I have lots of videos. I have videos on Aleister Crowley connected to the beetles and the order of the beetle and the winged beetle, and connecting it to the Beatles, who were, as we know, were infamous for putting Aleister Crowley on one of their album covers. So I got a lot of stuff. I've been doing a lot of digging. Happy Shabbat, and have a great day.